All right. Welcome. Back again, once again, time and time again, my friends. And we back for another market breakdown, and it is September.
It's 17:30.
The 21st, right at 5:30. Thank you, Siri. So every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I will be hosting a live stream, just doing a little quick market breakdown on the direction and what I expect to come for the next couple days. So we'll be doing this 3 times a week, just to get a broad overview on the direction as to where the market may head. If you do want to know the strategies that we do use over here at the FX Savant University, the link is in the description. Go ahead and check that out. You can learn everything over there. But with further ado, let's go ahead and get this live stream started. So today was FOMC, and they did hike the interest rate about 0.75% in hopes of catching everybody up with the inflation of the United States dollar. But if we look at XAU, jumping right into it on the monthly, we've been speaking about it. This area right in here is previous structure support. That's been support for a while. Just want to see either this area be used as structure support once again or get broken through. So either way, I want to see what happens. We do still have 9 days until that candle does close, so it doesn't mean it's going to close exactly the way that it is now. But if we look at it on the weekly, we are starting to close below that structure area. On the weekly, we do have a push down. We've been speaking about this. And then on the daily, more expected was a deeper correction up into this area before a continuation to the downside. But with the news, we should see the market shake a little bit, maybe turn direction in areas where it made sense. So still waiting for a retracement for a further continuation to the downside, because we are below some daily structure, and that is on gold. So until this area is broken above to the upside, we can only expect further continuation of lower highs and lower lows. Dropping down to silver, XAG USD. The last spoke about it. We were in this area. We wanted to see a retracement and then a continuation to the upside, which it was providing. Can still expect a continuation to the upside. Now over here, we do use things that make sense. So we really only speak about things that I like to call the truths in the market, which are things that really can't be disputed. And this candle right here represents what would be the next candle where we want to see the next candles to come fill in the wick, because on lower time frames, this is just simply the most common pattern in the market, all summed up into one candle. So that is the reasoning as to behind that, as where further continuation to the upside could be expected, since we are already looks like we're starting the next impulse to the upside, and that is on XAG USD. So further continuation is expected. Dropping down to platinum, XBT USD, we do still have previous structure resistance, and that is on the daily, right around this area. So the market broke above this area and has been above this area on the monthly. Now, once again, we do have 9 days until that closes. But if we look at the weekly, we can see that we are starting to make some moves to the upside, where we could expect some sort of retracement right around in this area. To come back and then provide the next impulse to the upside. And if we look at it on the daily time frame, you can see we are just making higher highs and higher lows out of this area. Or if we get some retracement of continuation to the upside, could be expected. Dropping down to US oil on the monthly time frame, previous structure resistance now turned support. Looking at the weekly, we are coming into this area, making moves to the downside, coming into this area once again. And then on the daily, we are making moves to the downside. So either I want to see a bounce out of this area, because we do have some support right in there. But if the market does continue to the downside, could expect it just to respect market structure. and then we will move to the Forex market. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. So if we slide over to the Forex market, we have Euro USD, or if we look at it from a monthly time frame. Now, I can't say it enough, man. I'm cold. So if we look at the monthly, we've been underneath this structure, making moves to the downside in a very aggressive way. Further continuation could be expected. What did I say? This has been marked out for maybe the last 2 weeks in bold print, big yellow letters right here, with this line indicating where I was talking about as being the target. So even when the market pushed down and then started to retrace, I still had faith that after this M formation was completed, it would put us in the correct position to look for a continuation to the downside. Now, this is a live example of everything that I say. So I've had videos trying to show you how to take advantage of logical day trading moves and then have that set you up for a position to be in a good situation to long-term trade and swing trades for the continuation of the daily move to capitalize on the momentum from a daily perspective as well. So there was an M formation on the weekly that we wanted to see completed. It got completed to the T, came back straight to the neckline as I preach, as I teach. And then what from there, you're in a perfect impulse to the downside, a retracement, and then a continuation to the downside to see a lower low to be created. I've been saying this, and I just want to say that because this target area, which market is sitting at right now perfectly to a T, has been marked up for a while now. So even back in here, I can remember that I had this area marked up as the overall target that I wanted to see Euro USD go to. And this is just one pair of what has been going on here. So some valuable education in these live streams, man. Make sure you tuned in. And if you take advantage of any of the moves that we look for, or that I'm looking for in these live streams and capitalize on that, go ahead and drop me a thumbs up because I'm really like that. But from the daily time frame on Euro USD as well, like I said earlier in the week, we were setting up nicely for an impulse or retracement to come back to that area for a continuation to the downside to go ahead and meet this overall target. Now from there, there should be some retracement. Market can't move in one direction forever. If we go ahead and break down lower, then we could start to look for a continuation to the downside as well on Euro USD if it provides the correct setup. So Gbp USD on the monthly breaking below structure, really breaking below all the structure in here. So gaining some momentum to the downside. Further moves could be expected on the weekly. We're breaking structure to the downside, pushing to the downside with extreme momentum. And then on the daily, we are below some daily structure. So if we get a retracement back into this area, which we did have some support right around in here, it would have been nice to see the market to go ahead and make a move to the upside for the retracement, but that will probably no longer be expected because the market is too overextended to the downside. But what we could expect is that a retracement into this area could happen and then a continuation to the downside for further bearishness on that. If we drop down to AUD, USD, Australian dollar, United States dollar on the daily time frame, pushing to the downside really strongly. This is all, of course, with the influence and help of the FOMC meetings that came out today, which there was a Fed rate hike. And if we drop down on the weekly on AUD USD, you can see that we are starting to push to the downside. If we do start to get some retracement We could look for the potential move to the downside on the weekly, but we do have some previous structure support that should act as resistance right in here, that if a retracement comes after this impulse to the downside, we could look for the continuation to the downside. USD Cad on the monthly pushing to the upside. We've been speaking about it, creating higher lows on its way up, starting to make moves to the upside very aggressively. On the weekly, we did want to see the market come back and give us some retracement before exploding to the upside. On the daily, you can see it expressed right in here. We started with this candle, wanted to see the market come back for a deeper retracement before exploding, but since then the market has just made really big moves to the upside. Whereas from now, if we get the retracement, we could then look for the continuation to the upside. Nzd Usd on the monthly time frame, pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly structure. So we are starting to get into some monthly support, and we're also in between some monthly resistance as well. So we could expect further continuation to the downside. We were expecting some sort of retracement on the weekly to go ahead and complete the weekly M formation. That did not come, at least not yet. The retracement hasn't started. We've had all this impulse candles to the downside, so it'd be interesting to see what comes next from this pair. But as it is right now, we are below some structure, some daily structure on Nzd Usd that will need to be broken before we start to see continuations to the upside. But if we do get a retracement back into this area as it is right now, we could then look for a retracement to the down, or a continuation to the downside, excuse me. USD Chf on the monthly time frame, like we've expressed, this is a nice and easy impulse to the upside retracement. You just want to see a continuation to the upside to create a higher high. If we look at it on the weekly time frame, on the weekly we are starting to make moves to the upside, but we do have this area right in here. So we did have the W formation on the weekly time frame, a move to the downside, move up, move down, explosion to the upside, come back, retest the neckline, and then from there we are in a great situation to see a continuation to the upside. We did have a fairly aggressive weekly candle to the downside, but on the daily time frame you can see we are coming into previous structure resistance that should now act as resistance once again, that if broken to the upside, we can expect this daily M formation to complete itself as well. Move up, move down, move up, move to the downside, come back, complete itself at the neckline, and then also provide the continuation to the upside that we need to see for a higher high to be created out of this market. So just waiting to see what happens in here. But as it is right now, we are kind of set up in a nice and easy impulse to the downside, to where if the market does start to show a retracement ending and an impulse starting to the downside, if everything's satisfied with the rules that we use, we could expect a continuation to the downside. So we need to see some structure broken either way or fail to break on this market. Usd Jpy pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly pushing to the upside, coming into some daily resistance that's been resistance once, twice, acting as resistance once again until broken through. So either way, we still need to see the market, since we were looking for a retracement, a deeper retracement before a continuation to the upside. From here, we need to see a break above some structure, and then the retracement and a continuation to look for opportunities on this market. Gbp Nzd, spoke about it, double bottom on the monthly, coming into some monthly support, just rejecting that area. On the weekly, we are starting to push to the upside, breaking above some weekly structure. And if we look at the daily time frame, we are starting to break and create structure to the upside. So we've been creating higher highs and higher lows, and we've gotten exactly what we were looking for: higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Can expect a higher low for a continuation to the upside. So since we last spoke about it, we wanted to see the retracement come out of this area and then provide a good opportunity to the upside, which is exactly what's going on now. So this is a good one to keep an eye on. Gbp Chf monthly pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly structure, so really getting some bearish momentum on the weekly, just pushing to the downside. How great would it have been to have made a play or caught a trade right around this area and then continue to hold? But there's no coulda, shoulda, wouldas. So let's move right along. But we are breaking and creating structure to the downside, just creating lower lows and lower highs on this market, which is continued to be expected. So if there becomes a retracement, we can then look for the continuation to the downside per the rules of the strategies that we use. GB or Euro Nzd, excuse me. On the monthly, we've been speaking about it. Inverted head and shoulders. On the weekly, pushing to the upside. Can't move in one direction forever. We do have a W formation and don't expect it to come back all the way down here to complete, but who knows? But on the daily time frame, we are in this retracement area where we have previous structure resistance in here that we want to see acted as support for a continuation to the upside, just continuing the trend momentum. So this is another one to keep your eye on. Chf Jpy, monthly time frame pushing to the upside, a weekly time frame pushing to the upside as well. And then on the daily time frame, it looks like we are getting the retracement right now. Who knows as if it wants to continue to the upside, but from right here, if it does start to show some signs of bullishness, breaking structure, we could expect a continuation to the upside. Euro Gbp trade that we are currently in, or I'm currently in, on the monthly time frame, pushing to the upside, breaking above some structure, but the way that the candle is doesn't mean that that is how it's going to close in 9 days. If we look at the weekly time frame, we have made moves to the upside, completing the impulse. Now we're starting the retracement, so taking advantage of the pullback on the daily time frame, what I'm doing is looking for the market to complete a previous structure resistance that should now act as support. I'm looking at it to make a move to the downside. And attacking this, I am set up right now. We are currently running risk-free on this 3R trade. Did take the trade yesterday in hopes of the move to the downside, but ended up getting stopped out, break even, and then the opportunity presented itself once again, and it is currently running about 26 pips on its way to the target for about 60 pips. Hopefully, you can see this candle was when FOMC came out. A little nervous, but we're already risk-free, so nothing really too much to be worried about on that. Euro Gbp continuation to the downside, hopefully before we start to make a move to the upside once the retracement completes itself. And now sliding down to Aud Cad on the monthly, it is setting up nicely for move down, retracement, continuation to the downside, just following market structure and the way that the market works. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see that we are below some weekly structure, so we're currently getting rejected from weekly structure support in this area that should now act as resistance for a continuation to the downside. But if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we are right around this area where from here it would be nice to either see a break above with the continuation to the upside, or looks like we're going to start the continuation to the downside. So really just being patient either way. Excuse me. So now let's slide down to Aud Chf on the monthly time frame. Even more of a perfect structure. Make a move to the downside. Come back to retest the M formation of the monthly time frame, put you in a good situation or position to go ahead and capitalize on the trend momentum to the downside, which is exactly what's been happening. On the weekly time frame, you can see that there's been extreme bearishness to the downside, breaking below all the structure, that if there does come a retracement, it would put us in a good situation to see the continuation to the downside, seeing as how we're below all this weekly structure. And if we look on the daily time frame, you can see that we are actually below daily structure that would need to be broken to the upside before looking for buys. So once this impulse completes itself it would be nice to go ahead and see a retracement before a continuation to the downside. Gbp Jpy on the monthly time frame, we were pushing up above, looking like we're going to start the next impulse to the upside on the monthly, but since then we've been rejected. That's probably due to the FOMC meetings. We had this area marked out. We didn't want to see the market break below, but we are starting to break below that area on the weekly. On the daily, you can see that we are creating a breaking structure to the downside. That if we do extend this on out, we can see that this is an area of previous structure support, resistance, support, resistance, support, resistance all the way through. And from here, if there does come a nice and easy retracement, we can look for the continuation to the downside. Aud Nzd monthly time frame pushing to the upside. A weekly time frame pushing to the upside as well. On the daily time frame, completing the impulse to the upside after the most common pattern in the market, just a simple break above structure, come back for a retracement, continue to the upside for a trend continuation. On the daily, we are starting to get the retracement. If we do get a nice and easy retracement completion, we could then look for the continuation to the upside for a higher high to be created. Cad Jpy pushing to the upside on the monthly. On the weekly, started the weekly retracement, starting to come back to the downside. We do have previous structure right in this area, previous structure resistance that should act as support. If we do look at the daily time frame, you can see that we are starting to come into this area. From here, we could expect a bounce or a move to the upside. But before we start to look for buys, we would need to see some structure broken, or we do have a supply and demand candle right in here that, if broken to the upside, would then put us in probably a good situation to have higher highs and higher lows out of this market, and then look for a move to the upside for a higher high to be created. So not until then. If the market continues to fall, then obviously the game plan changes. So we react. We don't just anticipate. We don't predict. Euro CHF on the monthly pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly structure. So more continuation to the downside could be expected. On the weekly, you can see that this is a very strong weekly candle pushing to the downside below all this structure. And then on the daily, we did have this double bottom right in here that we didn't want to see broken to the downside. But once we did get it broken to the downside, as of now, we can then look for the retracement back into this area, or for the market to provide some sort of retracement before we start to look for a continuation to the downside. And now that the market has shown us is bias. Euro Jpy monthly time frame. We were pushing to the upside previously. We've been rejected by previous structure resistance that is now acting as resistance once again. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see that we are starting the retracement after this impulse to the upside. And if we look at the daily time frame, we are creating lower lows and lower highs on the daily time frame. That now that we've broken below some daily structure, if we do get a retracement, we can then look for the continuation to the downside, because we would need several levels of structure broken before we start to look for buy opportunities once again. So we would need to see the market break several levels of structure before there would be any buy opportunities. So higher probability says we're going to look for sales until shown otherwise. Eurocad daily time frame, I've been speaking about it, trapped in between this area of structure support and structure resistance on the monthly. On the weekly, we've been exploding to the upside from this area. And then if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we've been making moves to the upside on our way up. That we've been just impulsing, and a retracement is due. The market can't move in one direction forever. We've had quite a strong retracement so far, covering about 3 candles of the impulse. So it'd be interesting to see that when this retracement does stop, what it looks like, and if there's an opportunity to see a continuation to the upside. But as it is right now, it's still retracing, so nothing really too exciting to look for. If we look at Aud Jpy on the monthly time frame, pushing to the upside. On the weekly, pushing to the upside as well, coming into previous structure resistance all throughout this area. That should now act as support. If we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we are starting to make moves right into this area. Even though we are breaking structure to the downside, if the market does from previous structure resistance that should now act as support, make a move to the upside, we need to see it break some levels of structure first, and then we can look for a continuation to the upside on this market. Vice versa, if it goes ahead and breaks down, then a retracement back into this area could provide a continuation to the downside. CAD CHF monthly, just keeping it simple, guys, nothing too crazy. On the monthly time frame, CAD CHF, really nice and easy. Impulse, retracement, impulse to the downside, the most common pattern in the market. Really, this market has been making moves to the downside for the past few weeks in a very aggressive manner. On the daily time frame, we did say we want to see a retracement into this area before a continuation to the downside, which is exactly what's happened. So from here, you can just look for another retracement before a continuation to the downside presents itself. Euro AUD monthly time frame, rejecting previous structure support, now acting as support once again. Just want to see a continuation to the upside. Weekly, really impulsing to the upside. We do have a weekly W formation. Move down, move up, move down, move up. You want to see it be completed at the neckline, which is what's starting right now on the daily. We do have the market moving to the downside, retesting previous structure resistance. That should act as support, but as it is right now, the market would need to slow down, show us a change of momentum before we start to make moves to the upside once again. Gbp AUD underneath previous structure support, now turned resistance. The market can't move in one direction forever, so a retracement back into this area before continuation to the downside is expected. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see that we are underneath some weekly support that will need to be broken before we start to see moves to the upside. But as it is right now, we do have a nice and easy move to the downside, so showing us a slow momentum change in this market before we start to see a continuation to the downside. As it is right now, the market is currently underneath this previous structure resistance that's now acting as resistance once again. There could be further continuation to the downside, but we need to see the impulse complete itself and then a retracement before continuation to the downside, and then vice versa. There are several levels of structure that will need to be broken to the upside first before we start to look for buy opportunities. Gbp Cad monthly time frame pushing to the downside, very aggressive. On the weekly, quite overextended, started the retracement. From here, you just want to see a nice and easy retracement end and then a continuation to the downside. But as it is right now on the daily time frame, we are above some daily support that will need to be broken before we start to look for sales, and then vice versa. We do have some structure resistance in this area that we would need to see broken before we start to look for buy opportunities. So the market is kind of trapped, ranging in between this area as it is right now. Nzd CHF pushing to the downside, quite an easy impulse to the downside, retracement, impulse to create a lower low or continue the trend formation. On the weekly, pushing to the downside very aggressively as well. And then on the daily, we wanted to see either a break above this structure if it wanted to show us the market wanted to be bought. But since that we've broken down, it's now a good opportunity to look for the retracement for a continuation to the downside on this market. Usd Cad monthly time frame pushing to the downside. On the weekly, pushing to the downside, breaking below some weekly structure. On the daily time frame, you can see as it is right now, starting the retracement with this candle. If it does become a little more of a deeper correction, let me clean some of this up. on this retracement. If there does become a deeper correction, you can then look for the continuation to the downside on Nzd Cad. Nzd Jpy as well was making moves to the upside before FOMC, but now we are rejecting previous structure highs. So previous structure resistance acting as resistance once again. And if we look at it on the weekly time frame, we are rejecting, pushing to the downside, putting us in a good formation to see a left shoulder here, a right shoulder, and then all this area be used as, or excuse me, left shoulder, head, and then the right shoulder over here, all this area to be used to help aid the continuation to the downside after the retracement as well. So if we look at it on the daily time frame with a little more detail, we wanted to see a correction back into this area to start, but now that we are starting to get a little overextended to the downside, a retracement is due. Doesn't mean it necessarily has to come. So when and if it does come, I will expect it to come to this area before a continuation to the downside. Now a little bit of exotics, so we can get some exotics going. Yeah, I have an extensive watch list, man. The strategies that I use can be used on any pair, any commodity, any instrument, any indice, as long as there's candlesticks on it, because that's what we use. So I don't want to limit myself by only trading a few pairs. I want to give myself the best opportunity to find the highest probability trade I can, and that is only done if I have multiple trades to look through to pick out the best ones. So let's get it started. AUD SGD pushing to the downside. We'll go through these fairly quickly. On the weekly, pushing to the downside as well. On the daily, we did want to see a deeper retracement, which is what we got, and then a continuation to the downside. So it's only right to expect the same thing. So if we get, depending on where the impulse ends, a retracement for a continuation to the downside, USD PLN, monthly time frame pushing to the upside, weekly pushing to the upside, breaking above some weekly resistance. On the daily, we could look for some sort of retracement before a continuation to the upside presents itself. USD Tibet. What up, Jay? My man. USD Tibet, monthly time frame pushing to the upside, weekly pushing to the upside, breaking above some weekly resistance. On the daily, we are breaking above some weekly resistance as well. So a retracement is expected before we start to look for more buy opportunities. Euro PLN, monthly time frame pushing to the upside, breaking above some monthly resistance. On the weekly, pushing to the upside as well, breaking above some weekly resistance. And then on the daily, you can see that we're starting to impulse to the upside, breaking above some daily resistance as well. If there comes an impulse, or excuse me, a retracement, we can then look for the impulse to the upside for trend continuation. Euro SEC, my man, J Money, getting to the baggage. I already know. Euro SEC, monthly time frame pushing to the upside, breaking above some monthly resistance. So further continuation could be expected. On the weekly, pushing to the upside as well. On the daily, just impulse to the upside. If we do get a retracement that sets us up perfectly, then a continuation to the upside could be expected. USD SEC pushing to the upside as well. And what have we learned about correlating pairs? Correlating pairs are going to tend to move the same. What are correlating pairs? Any pairs that have similar currencies in them. So Euro SEC and USD SEC are going to tend to look the same because they both have SEC in them. On the weekly, we're pushing to the upside, breaking above some weekly resistance. And on the daily, we just impulse. So a lot of these are looking very, very nice for the most common pattern in the market, man. Just a simple break above structure, come back for a retracement. You just want to see a trend continuation. Euro SGD, Daily time frame pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly structure on the downside, monthly support. On the weekly, you can see that we had impulse to the downside, come back, retest this structure candle. And then from there, we're starting to make moves with trend continuation on the weekly. If we do drop down to the daily time frame, we are starting to break below some structure. If we do get a nice and easy retracement coming into some of these areas, you could expect further continuation to the downside. Now, I think I did point out we wanted to see the market break above some of these areas before we started to before we started to look for buy opportunities. And this is the reason why you set those parameters in your trading. I don't want to look for buys on this market until the market breaks above some structure resistance and start to create higher highs and higher lows out of this area, because it would not be conducive to the fact that the market is in a bullish territory. And that's exactly what happened. The market failed to break above this area that I'm sure we spoke about in previous live streams, that if the market did break above, we'd look for buy opportunities. But since it failed, you shouldn't look for those, and it keeps you out of bad trades that aren't in your favor with the probabilities on your side. So the highest probability trade from here would be a nice and easy retracement for a continuation to the downside, the most common pattern in the market, and that is what I am looking for. USD SGD monthly time frame pushing to the upside, further continuation is expected. Weekly pushing to the upside, daily just impulse. If we get a nice and easy retracement out of this that fits the rules of the strategy, further continuation to the upside could be expected. So still same thing, bouncing off what I just said. We were waiting for the market to break above this area before we started to look for buy opportunities. That's why I leave these drawings on these charts to go ahead and prove that we said this in the previous live stream. This is what we're looking for. This is exactly what happened. Hey, it's doing exactly what we said we wanted to see. So now attack it the right way, or it's not doing exactly what I thought it was going to do. How do I adjust? Some of these pairs we've had to adjust. Some of them are exactly what we're looking for, completing and turning out nicely. So from here, after this impulse, I want to see a retracement for a further continuation to the upside. So the direction is up. It's really the main thing that we're supposed to get out of this. Here's another instance on the monthly of Eurozar, pushing to the upside, looking like we want to make moves to the upside. So as long as we're pushing to the upside on the monthly, we're going to look for buy opportunities on the weekly. Are we above some structure? Yes, we are above some structure on the weekly, but we have started a retracement. What do we have down in here? We have a move down, move up, move down, move up. It wouldn't be too out of the realm for the market to come back and retrace to this area before continuation to the upside, but who knows? We are starting the retracement as of right now. And now that we've broken below some daily structure, we need to see the market break, or at least change market structure once again back to the upside before we start to look for buy opportunities. But we were looking for a retracement and then a continuation to the upside. So just need to wait for the market to play out, whether it will give us something like this and then a continuation down before it starts to make and break structure to the upside once again for a higher high to be created, or will the market from here just go ahead and start to break back above structure for a higher high to be created. Either way, I just want to be patient and see structure to the upside broken once again before we start to look for buy opportunities. But we do have the weekly W formation that it looks like it wants to go ahead and complete back down in this area. So Eurozar still needs to develop. GBP DKK on the monthly time frame pushing to the downside, breaking below some monthly support. Further continuation to the downside could be expected. The market can't move in one direction though, so we need some retracement. On the weekly, it looks like we're starting the retracement. And if we look at it on the daily time frame, you can see that this retracement is coming almost perfectly as to what we wanted to see. Market is starting to retrace right around this area. I will be looking for further continuation to the downside once this retracement ends. GBP not on the monthly time frame, spoke about it, trapped in between previous structure highs, previous structure lows, really just ranging in between. But since we did come down in these lows, we could expect a bounce. We're starting to make moves to the upside that could possibly go retest the higher area up in here. But on the daily time frame, we did make a move to the downside, coming back. We're starting to create this pattern here that would be left shoulder head, immediate break back into this area. Use the left shoulder as some resistance, not breaking and closing above the left shoulder for a continuation to the downside is setting up. But as it is right now, we could have simple slow momentum and a continuation to the upside, or the market could go ahead and break down a little further. So just be a little more patient. But if we did want to continue to the upside, we would need to see the market start to show signs of an impulse to the upside. So that wouldn't be for another day or two. Usd Jpy monthly time frame pushing to the upside on the weekly, starting the retracement after we've broken structure to the upside. So just continuing the trend momentum. And on the daily, we are starting to come into this area that could be possible. See, the drawing that we had drawn out was further continuation to the downside, maybe some change of structure, then a continuation to the upside after the structure starts to shift and break to the upside. Keeping it simple but consistent. So from here, I really just want to see more continuation. Same thing. Break above structure, start to make and create and break structure to the upside on this market. After the retracement comes, so Usd Jpy, really nothing too exciting on that. Monthly time frame of USD ZAR pushing to the upside very aggressively. Weekly pushing to the upside very aggressively, breaking above some structure. Then on the daily time frame, we are starting to impulse, but the candles are starting to get a little bit weak. So we could expect some retracement before continuation to the upside. Gbp SEC on the monthly, really in between previous structure resistance on the monthly, previous structure support. So trapped in between. Looks like it wants to make moves to the upside, but who knows on the weekly. We still have weekly resistance in this area that needs to be broken before we start to claim that this market is bullish once again. And then on the daily time frame, we've just broken above some structure. We could expect that this W formation get completed at the neckline, and then from there we'll be in a good position to go ahead and capitalize on the continuation to the upside. Gbp SGD monthly time frame pushing to the downside very aggressively, starting to break below monthly structures and getting into territory that we've never been before. So GBP is getting extremely weak, starting across the board to get into territories that we've never seen before. On the weekly, breaking below some weekly structure as it is right now. And then on the daily time frame, just the most common pattern in the market, man. Just in the nice and easy impulse to the downside, retracement, impulse, continuing the trend momentum. What can we expect? Another retracement for continuation to the downside to continue the trend momentum. So that's what I got on GBP SGD. On NOK SEC, we spoke about it. It looks similar to USD CHF. So we're on NOK SEC. If we do slide over to USD CHF, they look fairly similar. Just a nice and easy break above structure. Want to see it come back for a retracement for a higher high to be created. So simply here, impulse to the upside, retracement, just a nice and easy impulse to the upside. Once again, continuing the trend momentum, and that is on the monthly. So it's extremely powerful. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see we had previous structure resistance that's now acting as support, exactly as we spoke about in the previous live stream. So I've been able to take advantage of all these moves, all the directions, exactly where they're supposed to go. If you just paid attention to the live streams, make sure you're dropping a thumbs up. If you're in the live stream right now, make sure you drop a thumbs up. And then on the daily of NOK SEC, you can see we just broke above some daily structure. If we do get a nice and easy retracement, exactly as what we've been expecting to see out of this area, then a further continuation to the upside could be expected. NOK JPY monthly time frame pushing to the upside, previous structure resistance now acting as support. If we look at it from the weekly time frame, we are starting to come into this area, but we are starting to push to the downside on the weekly. On the daily time frame, we did come into this area that is structure support, starting to get a bounce out of here. We wanted to see a retracement from over in here before we saw a continuation to the downside, but the market has just plummeted. But from here, there could be a possibility that we see a bounce to the upside and then the market structure change. where we could look for buy opportunities. But as it is right now, you just want to see further continuation to the downside and then a retracement for downside continuation. USD NOK from the monthly time frame starting to break above some monthly resistance. If we look at it from the weekly time frame, we are above previous weekly structure. So we've had weekly resistance in here that was broken to the upside. And if we drop down to the daily time frame, we are impulsing to the upside. We know the market cannot move in one direction forever. If we do get a retracement, we could then look for a continuation to the upside. Euro NOK monthly time frame, inverted head and shoulders. Could expect further continuation to the upside. Just from this pattern on the weekly time frame, you can see that we did break above some weekly structure. We just wanted to see a retracement back down into this area before the market started to make a move to the upside once again. And if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that after all this move to the upside, we are starting to get the retracement. Now FOMC was a news event that caused this day to be abnormal. So this is a very aggressive candle. You can see it's covered not only 1, 2, but 3 candles of the impulse and 1 retracement candle. So it is very aggressive. It does show a shift in momentum. Just be careful when you are looking for these trades when you see things like that. But we need to see the retracement end on Euro NOK first before we start to look for a continuation to the upside anyways. USD CNH monthly pushing to the upside. Very, very aggressively. Weekly pushing to the upside very, very aggressively. And then on the daily, we are very, very, very pushed up to the upside with this impulse. FOMC definitely helped that. If we get a retracement, I did want to see a explosion to the upside out of this area. Since we last spoke about it, we were above previous structure resistance. Now we last spoke about it, the chart looked like this. I don't even think this candle was fully formed yet. So I'd said we had previous structure resistance. We want to see it used as previous structure support, just simple, basic market structure. And then the most common pattern in the market is an impulse to the upside or downside, a retracement to the upside or downside, and then another impulse to the upside or downside in that direction for the trend continuation. And what has thus happened? Trend continuation to the upside, and then from there we just keep it really, really simple. We look for the same thing over and over and over. And this is why I trade multiple pairs, or all these pairs on this watch list. Is because, say I'm just trading the majors, there may not be an opportunity. But if I'm going through all these pairs, there may be an opportunity. Not only may there be an opportunity, there will more than likely be a good opportunity for me to trade for that day. Now, I'm not too aggressive on taking multiple trades in a day. So 1 to 2 trades a day is easily where I fit in. Sometimes not even a day, maybe 1 or 2 trades a week suits me. But I take the best opportunities I can find. And that is because I look at all these pairs on the watch list. So that is very important because I'm going over it again. But USD is at Corona on the monthly time frame, very aggressively pushing to the upside on the weekly, pushing to the upside, breaking above some weekly resistance as it is right now. So simple market structure, the most common pattern in the market. That's why I call it that. An impulse to the upside, a retracement, retesting previous structure resistance, now turn support. We just want to see a continuation to the upside. It happens over and over and over on all time frames, more times than not. That is the most common pattern in the market. There is one. If we go from there, there's another one. If we go from there, previous structure resistance, now support. This is back to back to back to back to back to back to back. Now think if you knew the same strategies that I use, which is taking advantage of this knowledge, knowing that just previous structure resistance and now turn support with a continuation to the upside. Imagine if you knew how to capitalize on that knowledge. You could have one 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 30. About 30 days of trading all go perfect because you know exactly what to do and how to capitalize on the market. So yeah, that's what we do here, man. When I say I trade all pairs on all time frames, that's what I mean. We capitalize on all these moves to the upside on basically back to back to back to back to back. But if we do drop down to the daily time frame, if we look at it, we can see that we just impulse to the upside. Come back for a retracement is what we would need for a continuation to the upside to be present. So just the same things over and over and over, man. We spoke about this as well. We did have this. I know I called it a funky or a weird one, left shoulder, head, and then I drew this box out because I said that this is the area that you want to see used as the right shoulder. So you don't want to see the market break and close below that area. And then from there, you start to see the explosion to the upside, and it puts you in a good position to go ahead and look for the retracement and look for the impulse to the upside. I'm dropping gems, man. I'm dropping gems. I don't understand it. It's simple. It's really like once you figure out that this is how you're supposed to trade, consistent, and trade with the truths in the market, it makes you go back and be like, man, I was overcomplicating it. But once again, correlating pairs. Remember, these are all correlating pairs. We're getting down to these exotics now. But hopping right back into it, let me get off my high horse. And we'll go over USD DKK. On the monthly, pushing to the upside quite aggressively. On the weekly, we're breaking above some structure, so you know exactly what I'm gonna say. Don't let me get on this tangent one more time. Let me just go to the daily time frame. We are above some structure. Same thing I told you in the last one that this is when I started to talk about the pairs were correlated. We had this area here. I don't know if I called this one funky or weird or makeshift or what, but I said that we had this area here that we don't want to see broken to the downside, broken and close to the downside. And then from there, you want to see the market explode to the upside. That's exactly what we've gotten since then. And from that move to the upside, what do I want to see? Is this right here, a nice and easy retracement. And then more continuation to the upside. So FOMC is helping propel the market quite a lot. And if we drop down to USD on the monthly time frame, pushing to the upside. On the weekly, we're starting to push to the upside. Further continuation to the upside could be expected. We had previous structure resistance in here that acted as support. Starting to see the market move to the upside. We're rejecting that area quite nicely on the daily time frame. So just a retracement out of this area and more continuation for a higher high to be created could be expected. I know we've had a plethora of W and M formations completed. This was probably on the daily time frame. M formation I wanted to see completed, move to the upside. I've spoken about them all the time. I just want to get that ingrained in your head that these patterns complete 80 to 90% of the time. So start to look at the market with a different mindset. I know a lot of people are trading different things. I don't want to bash any certain type of way anyone's trading, but start to look at the market with a different mindset. There are certain truths in the market that cannot be disputed, that are true no matter what. You can say it and then go look in the market and it will prove itself over and over and over, time and time again. Things like the most common pattern in the market. This is simply the most common pattern in the market, and you will look and find that this pattern happens more often than any other pattern in the market. I say that with confidence because it is a truth in the market. So things like that is what you need to open your mind to when you're learning to trade. If you want to learn those concepts or the things that I do use, go ahead and check the link in the description. The FX Savant University is open. I would be happy to have you and show you the way. But moving right along, USD Mexican Peso, been speaking about it. We're trapped in between previous structure support, previous structure resistance for a while now. Nothing really too exciting to get excited about. That's not good English, but hey, it's not me. That's my sister. We're coming into this area where we have a double bottom starting to form. We're starting to find this structure support right in here. If we do drop down to the daily time frame, spoke about the M formation that was completed with the move to the downside. Perfect and perfect. I sound like a broken record, but that is essentially how I got good at trading. When I started to say the same things over and over and over and look for the same things over and over and over, and it became really redundant and consistent is the word. That's when trading started to get really good. So even though I said saying the same things week after week, day after day, live stream after live stream, it's because they are facts. And I want you to get those ingrained into your mind. It's only going to help you. But we're starting to reject these lower areas right in here. We could expect a move to the upside to go and test these higher areas if that's what the market wants to do. Really, personally, I'm not really doing too much with USD Mexican Peso. So I'm going to leave it at that. It is what it is. We've analyzed it. From here, either way, we want to see a move to the upside, breaking structure. We're going to keep it consistent here. We need to see it break structure first before we start to classify this as some sort of bullish market, because as it is right now, all this area after this drop is resistance that could still put us in trend continuation. And then from there, oh snaps, wrong tool. We would need to see the market really break below some of these areas before we start to look for sell opportunities. So either way, it'd be a minute before the market starts to show us any opportunity. So yeah. And then last but not least is the Btc USD. If we look at it from the monthly time frame, same thing over and over. Previous structure, resistance over here in this area. We want to see it be used as support, which it was used as support already once when the market came into it and had this little bounce to the upside. From there, started to make moves to the downside. I'm sure this FOMC meeting did not help. If we look at it on the weekly time frame, you can see that we did have a weekly M formation that we wanted to see completed. That was completed. So we had to move up, move down, move up, move down, completed at the neckline to the T, 80 to 90 completion rate of that pattern. Took advantage of it, then dropped down to the daily time frame. We can see that there are some levels of structure that we're starting to break to the downside. Now, once again, the halving event isn't until 2024, so don't really get your hopes up on BTC until then. So Bitcoin, I wouldn't see really making a move until then. So there are a lot of people who are moving all their Bitcoin off the exchanges. They're really just forgetting about them, put them into cold storages, into wallets and stuff. They're not really on the exchanges, so it doesn't look like there are many coins on the exchanges. The halving event comes, everybody's Bitcoin basically doubles. You get twice the amount, and then from there you start to see the rise again. After that happens, people start to bring it out of the wallet, start trading it, start changing it, exchanging it, throwing it back on the exchanges, boo, out the wop. All that happens 2024. So that's my predictions on that. From then, if we did want to see Bitcoin make a move to the upside, it would need to break this level of structure, which is what we had drawn out. But as it is right now, making moves to the downside, you can only expect more continuation to the downside, just following market structure. That's BTC. Real quick. Euro USD. I want to go back over this. I don't know. You may not have caught the beginning of the live stream if you did or if you didn't. What did I say? I've had this target on this screen set here for as long as I can remember really doing these live streams. So 2 to 3 weeks at least of live streams. So that's 8 to 9 live streams, 6 to 9 live streams. This target has been right here, same area, same thing. You can go back on the live streams and look at the price. This has been sitting here with my expected target. And when I talk about the truths in the market, these are the things that I'm talking about. So I not knew, because you can't say those things. So I did not know that the market was going to go here, but I knew that there was a high chance that the market was going to come to this area and then from here do something different. Then I was going to make my next assessment on the market, was once the market reached this area. So patience. I want to talk about patience and just understanding the market, these truths in the market, man. I've had this sitting here for a while. What came out today? So FOMC, it's been a big debate with the market and everything going on right now. So that is probably going to be a big catalyst in the market and help propel the market to places that it may not reach on a normal day, which is something called news. my phrase is news completes the move. And that is exactly what has happened here. This is a good example of that, is that the market was really a distance away from where I expected the market to go to. This target area right around in this area was what I've had marked up for a while. And we had some extreme news come out today, along with, of course, the technicals, because I'm not a fundamental trader. I don't really, not that I don't believe in fundamentals. It's just that by the time the fundamentals reach me and I'm able to react with that information, there are people who have already processed that, they've already seen it and processed and profited off that information before I can even trade it. So I don't use it as a viable way to trade. It's not one of the main things in my trading arsenal. Yes, I look at fundamentals, so I'll look at things like CLT data, or I'll look at things like what the FOMC actual percentages came out as, what the rate was, what really the numbers were, but I'm not going to base my trading off of that. But what I do know is that if you're in the correct direction technically, now sometimes it won't make sense, but for the majority of the time, if you're in the right direction technically. So what do I say technically is, I mean, when I speak about things like an impulse to the downside, if we get the retracement to retest previous structure resistance that should now act as resistance once again, we should see a continuation to the downside. So technically, I'm in the right direction if I'm looking for moves to the downside on this market. Yes, I'm a ways away from this area, but now fundamentally, I know that there's a big news event that may come out, or that is going to come out. In the back of my mind, I know that news completes the move. So if this is the overall move, which once again, these are things that I teach in the program, these truths in the market, I know that this is the intended move, the most common pattern in the market. It sounds simple, or you probably won't believe me, but this is the most common pattern in the market. Once this pattern starts on the daily time frame, I know that on the 15-minute, 1 hour, and 4 hour, that this pattern is supposed to complete. So regardless of what I see on those time frames, this overall pattern, it's almost predestined. It's not, I'm not guaranteeing it, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey, I've seen this before. I know how the outcome is going to be. I know it's going to happen. So with the patience of knowing, hey, I've had previous structure resistance. If we zoom out a little bit on the weekly time frame, we had a overall pattern, the M formation pattern that I spoke about, I'm sure for a week in advance. We had this M formation, this M pattern that we wanted to see complete at the neckline. Even after this candle formed, I still wanted to see it complete all the way fully because it wasn't complete yet. Still had that little space. But after I spoke about that, this was the patient part, because this is a week. This right here is a whole week of waiting. This is another week of waiting. And then this is, this week of trading. So you're talking about 3 weeks of being patient. That's what I mean when I say like patient, is not wanting to go ahead and anticipate what the market's going to do, is wait for it to set up and provide you with the correct setup. So we had previous structure resistance or support right in this area that you want to see used as resistance. This is the weekly M formation that we wanted to see completed at the neckline. We got the completion at the neckline, which put us in a good position to go ahead and capitalize on this move to the downside. Now, do we just go ahead and hop in right here? For me, no, not the strategy that I offer. We don't just go ahead and blindly place a limit order right here once the price is all the way down here in hopes and anticipation that over the next 4 days, nobody's going to change their mind or the decision on the way they want to trade. It's not predestined like that. But once the market does start to show signs that it wants to go to the downside, so give us confirmations, then are able to capitalize on the truths in the market in order to look for the same things that we always look for. The same thing, just a continuation to the downside for a lower low to be created. A lot of people look for equal lows. Some things in the program that's offered that are just not widely known. I thought they were, but they're not widely known, that you really get access to some knowledge in the program. But yeah, just wanted to speak on that, man. This was pointed out a while ago, and news completes the move. So even with this candle starting to push up, started to get the rejection, said we want to see the continuation to the downside, or I did at least, and the market pushed down straight to that area, almost to the T, as you can see. Look at the market right now. To the T. To the T. And now we're starting the retracement on the way back. So, like I said, man, be patient and really take that with you. News completes the move. Think about that next time you start to trade some news events or think about trading news events. Is there someone out there who can have access to that information quicker than you? And are they able to act on that information faster than you? Answer is probably yes, unless you work in some high-tech company or facility. So think about that next time you're trading news. And then also as well, think about news completes the move. Let's take a step back, look at the broader picture. And once again, mind you, we've only gone through the directional time frames on these live streams. Just the direction. Imagine if you knew where the market was going to go. I hate saying that like it's guaranteed, but imagine if you had a high probability of where the market was going to go and you were able to attack and capitalize on that with a lower time frame entry. But yeah, think about that when you're trading. Don't get so focused in on the small time frame. Zoom out, really look at the market, man. And from there, we'll be back. We'll be back. So we hit an hour, starting to get longer and longer. I like doing this. I like my little rants. I need some more people in here to listen to my rants. Yes, sir. We got the plug talk coming in. You know how it is. But we'll be back on Friday, man. Now, I really am honestly thinking about moving them up from maybe 5:30 to 6:30, anywhere starting in between there to maybe 3 or 4. And this is Eastern Standard Time as well, because I just have long days. So like I say in the videos, I'm up early. So I'm up early in the morning in my time frame. By the time this time comes around, I'm kind of tired until I get going. And then I'm just dead right after this. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. So if I moved them up a little more, I think it would benefit not only me, but you all as well, because it's not so late in the day. I know a lot of people got things going on. You can kind of catch this when you don't really got too much going on. Get a break from whatever you are doing. It's not really market close. So yeah, let me know. Comment section. Drop something. Let me know about the time frames. We're still going to come in at 5:30 to 6:30 on Friday, this Friday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Make sure you are subscribed with the post notifications turned on. That way you get notified when I do go live on these live streams. And then from there, I hope you are having a profitable day on and off the charts. Until next time, I appreciate y'all, man.